The part that made me agitated with Trey, and this is not the clip we're going to play. We'll play a different clip coming up in a little bit here, because that speaks to a different level of things. He acknowledges at the end, is more so the idea that he boiled down to whether or not Shedeur Sanders is going to be good based off of whether or not he had the highest completion percentage in NFL or NCAA history. Like, to use that as a bad thing, to use that as an arrow in your quiver to go ahead and basically take a shot toward Shedeur is where I thought he was a little off base. But I also think that, and this is part of the problem within that discussion, Jake, okay? Using that as if that's the only thing that Shedeur did while in college is not only patently false, it is patently misleading towards a conversation. To act as if that's the only thing he did, and it's the only thing we can judge on whether or not he would be successful at the next level, I think is wrong. Part of the Shedeur discussion is the idea that, yes, he did have one of the highest completion percentages in NCAA history. It's also the idea that he had 134 touchdowns with 27 picks in his time in Colorado. It's also the idea that in 24 games, he finished with a 71% completion percentage while throwing for 7,000 yards and 64 touchdowns at Colorado. It's also the idea that he had 7 300-yard games, 8 games with 3+ touchdown passes. Also the idea that he finished 4th in passing yards, 2nd in passing touchdowns in all of college football in the year that he got drafted and taken out.
The Cleveland Browns just got embarrassed at 32-13. A blowout loss to the New England Patriots that felt like a punch to the gut, not just for the team, but for an entire city waiting for a spark. And right in the middle of the chaos, Shedeur Sanders, the rookie quarterback everyone can't stop talking about, for better or worse. But instead of breaking down what really went wrong in that Patriots game, Cleveland sports media chose a different target. They turned their frustration toward the one player who didn't even start that loss, Shedeur. Because apparently, when Shedeur Sanders does something good, it's still bad. Let's talk about that. So Trey Wingo goes on air and basically says, nobody really knows what Shedeur will be at the next level. And sure, that's fair. Nobody knows with certainty how any quarterback will turn out. But then Trey does what too many media voices do. He uses Shedeur's strengths, his accuracy, his composure, his record-setting completion rate as a reason to doubt him. Like, seriously? Since when did being historically accurate become a problem? The man finished college with 134 touchdowns to just 27 interceptions. 71% completion at Colorado, throwing for over 7,000 yards and 64 touchdowns in just 2 seasons, while being sacked more than any other quarterback in the country. And that's supposed to be a red flag? Because let's be honest, if this were a white quarterback with those numbers, with that leadership, we'd be hearing, he's a generational prospect. Instead, with Shedeur, he's cocky. He's too sure of himself. He's just his dad's son. But stats never tell the whole story. So when people say, oh, but Colt McCoy had a high completion rate too, or Brandon Whedon didn't work out, it's like, come on. You can't just throw random names at a wall and pretend it's analysis. Shedeur's story isn't a copy-paste of anyone else's, he's rewriting his own. And the numbers prove it. 4th in passing yards, 2nd in touchdowns, 7 games with over 300 yards passing, 8 games with 3 or more touchdowns. Those aren't system stats. Those are carry the program on your back stats. But the Cleveland talk shows? They want to focus on one metric and twist it into something negative. It's not about football anymore. It's about framing. And Trey Wingo's concern about Shedeur isn't about accuracy or tape. It's about perception. You can feel it, right? The tone, the hesitation, the coded criticism. Every time Shedeur smiles after a touchdown, every time he flashes that watch, it's not confidence to them, it's arrogance. So ask yourself this, if Shedeur Sanders were named Sam Darnold Jr. and had the same numbers, would this even be a debate? Exactly. And look, even the co-hosts on 92.3 The Fan, they tried to keep it real. They said, hold up Trey, you're cherry picking. Because yes, Shedeur was accurate, but he also led one of the most explosive college offenses while under siege. He had 2 NFL-level receivers, Jimmy Horn Jr. and Travis Hunter, and still had to make magic with one of the weakest defensive lines in the Pac-12. So what exactly are we punishing here? Excellence under pressure? Leadership in chaos?
Thriving. All right, so this was Trey, and this is the one that's actually going viral, the one that people are talking about as he discussed ESPN's coverage of Shedeur so far. Here we go.
It was embarrassing. They did it because they knew his name would resonate and his name would create some sort of rabid frothing at the mouth when it was based on nothing, when it was really based on nothing. There's nothing to suggest that A, he's going to be terrible, or B, he's going to be great. We don't have any data. It's all just guesswork. It's all just opinions. I'm not suggesting he's going to be terrible. I'm suggesting I don't know. And anybody that says they know is wrong or is purposefully being misleading because there is no information to back up your point.
Okay, so we do have information to back up why you'd believe it. I gave up more information than you could possibly imagine in the beginning part of this segment to back up why you could believe in Shedeur Sanders. I do side with the idea that I don't know how you end up in a spot where you can think any of the information that I presented would act as a negative towards Shedeur. That's the part that I always have a hard time with.
And it's not just about numbers anymore, it's about leadership. Everyone who's ever played with Shedeur, from Jackson State to Colorado to Cleveland, says the same thing. He's that guy he commands the locker room, not because of his last name, but because of how he works, that he's vocal, he's sharp, and when he steps into the huddle, people follow. You can't teach that. You can't fake that. You either have that it factor, or you don't. Baker Mayfield had it when he first hit Cleveland. He made people believe. He made people fight. And you can feel that same energy with Shedeur, that same defiant confidence that dares you to doubt him. But somehow, the same traits that once made Baker beloved are now being twisted into negatives for Shedeur. Why? Because Shedeur doesn't fit their mold that he's not quiet. He's not apologetic, that he embraces his culture, his confidence, his father's legacy, and that bothers people. The truth is, Shedeur Sanders represents a new face of leadership in football, one that's unapologetically black, unapologetically confident, and unapologetically elite. And for some people in Cleveland sports media, that's too much to handle. Now, let's pause and ask the real question here. Why does Cleveland's media feel more comfortable tearing down its own young quarterback than supporting him through the process? Why does every positive headline about Shedeur come with a but? Because when you peel back the stats, the debates, the radio soundbites, what you really see is fear. Fear of change, fear of swagger, fear of a young man who doesn't need their approval to know who he is. Do you think Shedeur's confidence is being unfairly labeled as arrogance? Or is the Cleveland media just too stuck in the past to see what's really in front of them? Remember this, you can't rewrite greatness, but you can misunderstand it. And that's exactly what's happening in Cleveland right now. After Trey Wingo's comments, things started to snowball. Every sports radio panel, every morning show, every Cleveland podcast started echoing the same lazy narrative. Shedeur Sanders is talented, but there's always that but. Shedeur's accurate, but he's untested. Shedeur's composed, but he's not ready for NFL pressure. Shedeur's confident, but he's too flashy. That but is the problem. It's the subtle way people downplay greatness when it doesn't look the way they expect it to. It's not about football anymore. It's about perception, personality, and prejudice. And here's the twist. Even after the Browns' 32-13 loss to the Patriots, a game Shedeur didn't even start, the headlines still dragged him into the storm. Sanders' confidence wearing thin with veterans, one blog said, Cleveland locker room losing patience with the Sanders show. Another headline screamed. Except none of that was true. Ask around the locker room, and what you actually hear is the opposite. Veterans like Amari Cooper and David Njoku have publicly praised Shedeur's work ethic. Defensive leaders have said he's one of the most prepared young quarterbacks they've ever seen. And yet, media outlets keep pushing this storyline like he's dividing the team. That's not reporting, that's projection. Because Shedeur's confidence shines too bright for people who prefer quiet mediocrity. He's a quarterback who knows who he is, and that terrifies the ones who don't. And let's not forget, this is Cleveland, a city that's been burned by quarterback after quarterback, each one coming in with hype and leaving with excuses. So now, when someone like Shedeur shows up and dares to believe in himself, the city doesn't know how to handle it. They've been conditioned to fear swagger, but swagger is what wins in this league. Look at Patrick Mahomes, look at Joe Burrow, look at Lamar Jackson. All of them were criticized for their style, their confidence, their personality, until they started winning. Then suddenly, the same confidence became leadership. The same swagger became maturity. The same defiance became poise. It's the same story playing out again. The only difference? Shedeur's writing this one in Cleveland ink. Remember that clip that went viral last week, where Wingo doubled down, saying Shedeur's cool demeanor might not translate when the hits start coming? It's like he forgot Shedeur already survived the hits. He took 55 sacks in one season, more than any other quarterback in college football, and still threw for over 3,200 yards and 27 touchdowns, and yet, somehow, the narrative is that he can't handle pressure. You see the contradiction, right? When Shedeur plays through pain, they call it reckless. When he stays poised under pressure, they call it nonchalant. When he believes in himself, they call it arrogance. So what exactly is he supposed to be? Because it seems like the only version of Shedeur that would make some people comfortable is the one who keeps quiet, plays safe, and doesn't challenge the narrative. But that's not who he is, that's not who Deion raised him to be. And that brings us to the next point, the Deion factor. Because no matter what Shedeur does, someone's always ready to say, he's only in the spotlight because of his dad. Really, if anything, that name brought him more scrutiny, not less. He's been under a microscope since high school. Every pass, every post, every interview, analyzed, dissected, debated, and through all that noise, he just kept producing. That's not privileged, that's pressure, and he's handled it better than anyone his age should have to. So when Shedeur walks into that locker room, chin up, watch shining, smile confident, it's not arrogance, it's armor, it's what you wear when you've been doubted your entire life and you're still standing. Now, let's go back to the Patriots game for a second. Because that 32-13 loss wasn't just about scoreboard numbers, it was about tone. You could feel the shift in the air. The offense looked lifeless. The play calling was predictable. The defense got worn out by halftime. And yet, every sports headline after the game pointed at Shedeur. Why? Because Cleveland needed a scapegoat, and the rookie quarterback, the one who represents change, became the easiest target. But if you actually watch the tape, you'll notice something the talking heads won't say out loud. Shedeur wasn't the problem. The system was. The Browns ran the same stale schemes, refused to adapt to motion, refused to open up the playbook, and when Shedeur checked into the game late, even in garbage time, you could see it. The rhythm, the spark, the confidence. He hit Cedric Tillman for a 17-yard strike that he commanded the pocket. He gave fans something to cheer about again. That's what leadership looks like. Not perfect stats, but presence. And here's the uncomfortable truth for Cleveland's old-school media. Shedeur Sanders doesn't need their approval. He's already bigger than their narrative. He's a cultural movement wrapped in shoulder pads. He represents what's next, a generation that refuses to apologize for excellence. When Trey Wingo says, "We don't know what Shedeur will be at this level," he's really saying, we don't know how to categorize him. Because there's no blueprint for a player like Shedeur Sanders, someone who carries the legacy of prime, the poise of a veteran, and the confidence of a superstar. And Cleveland's still learning how to handle that. But here's the thing, Shedeur doesn't need to fit in. That he's here to redefine what a franchise quarterback looks like. And if that makes people uncomfortable, good. Change usually does. Because at the end of the day, Shedeur Sanders isn't just playing football, he's changing the conversation. That he's proving that confidence isn't arrogance when you can back it up. That he's showing that leadership doesn't have to look traditional to be real. And when the Browns finally start winning, when that swagger starts turning into victories, watch how fast the same voices who doubted him start calling him mature, focused, and the future of the franchise. It always happens that way. They criticize first, they celebrate later. But Shedeur? He doesn't need validation. That he just needs the ball. So, Cleveland, ask yourself, what's really the issue here? Is it that Shedeur hasn't proven himself? Or is it that he's forcing everyone to rethink what a leader looks like? Because the more you listen to these debates, the clearer it gets. This isn't about performance, it's about perception. And Shedeur Sanders is daring the world to see him differently. The Cleveland media can keep doubting. The analysts can keep nitpicking. The critics can keep spinning narratives. But Shedeur, he's going to keep throwing darts, he's going to keep winning locker rooms, and he's going to keep reminding everyone, you can't silence swagger when it's built on substance. That's the story they don't want to tell. Because it doesn't fit the mold. Because it challenges the hierarchy. But that's why this story matters. Because for every young athlete watching, every kid who's told they're too confident, every player who's told to tone it down, Shedeur is living proof that you can lead your way, authentically, unapologetically, unstoppably. So when the Cleveland media rolls its eyes the next time Shedeur flashes his watch or smirks after a touchdown, just remember, they're not reacting to arrogance, they're reacting to evolution. This is Gridiron Insights. If you believe Shedeur Sanders is being misunderstood, if you see his confidence for what it truly is, leadership, then hit that like button, subscribe, and stay tuned. Because this story isn't over, it's just getting started.